And let's see. There we go. All right, so this is today is the 8th of April, 2021. My name is David Perlman, and you are attending MS Office Hours. With me today as co-hosts are Deb. Say hello, Deb.
Deb McLennan from SUNY Oneonta.
Awesome. And Super Steve. Hi, I'm Steve Lane. I work as director of IT, or manager of IT. Sorry, I just did that all on my own. All right, Steve, you lost that chance. All right, so Victoria, I'm going to turn it over to you. Victoria is one of our super technical specialists in modern workplace, and you have the floor.
All right, thank you, David. So yes, I am Victoria Dean. I'm a tech specialist, primarily focusing on teams within the education group. Most of my customers are in the Pacific Northwest region, but I am from Texas and went to school in Georgia, so I love everybody. For this presentation, I will be going over the different teams updates that are currently on the roadmap and slated to be here by Q2. So I want to call this the back to school teams updates, but depending on when you go back to school, maybe it will be there, maybe it won't be there by the time you go back, but I'm hoping that it will. I do think that it will make your back to school experience a lot smoother this year than it was last year. So since all of these items are on the roadmap, if you want to track these items, I've included a hyperlink in each one of the slides. So you'll actually be able to click on it and bookmark those roadmap items. Since I said you can click on it, it is because this PowerPoint is interactive, as you've probably noticed already. If you want to advance slides because I'm speaking too slow, feel free to do that. If you want to roll with me, then feel free to do that as well. If you are not sure whether or not you are on my presenter, so as a viewer, this second picture shows what it should look like if you're on the same slide as me. That last picture shows what it looks like if you've wandered off to another slide. But you can click on that button that's highlighted in the blue box to get back where I am. And so I really like this feature. It's in PowerPoint, upper right-hand corner of your PowerPoint screen. You can go there. Uh-oh, I think someone took over my screen. Let's see.
I think I may have accidentally done that. I apologize. That was my bad.
That's okay. So you don't have to be worried about Teams bombing. It's the PowerPoint bombing that you got to be worried about. Let me start presenting again here. The comment sections crack me up. Okay, I'm gonna resume here. Can everyone see my slides? Just give me some thumbs up for reactions. All right, awesome. Thank you, everyone. Yay, all the thumbs up. All right, so let's get going now that you all understand rules of engagement here. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about, dynamic view. I love this because our screen real estate is very precious with all the multitasking that we're doing. And so I like how teams will start to prioritize if someone is presenting, that screen will be bigger. If someone is showing their video, then that will be, larger than the other little icons that aren't showing any video at all. And so this is to give a more aesthetically appeasing view when you are sitting there and in a presentation. Lots of research has gone on behind this. So this is really exciting. The next three features that I talk about will be a part of the webinar features that we are releasing. So webinar is, we realize we're hearing from the users that, hey, there's a gap between just having a traditional Teams meeting and having a live event. The live event seems to be very robust with a lot of production needs that go on behind it. But a lot of times people are using live events just because there's meeting limitations on the conventional meeting. So with this, you can have more people that are just in a regular meeting. You can have up to 1,000 attendees that will actually be able to utilize the chat function and fully interact with the Teams meeting. Once it goes over 1,000 attendees, up to 20,000, they will still be able to view. So enter what's called a view only broadcast space, where they can still see the video, everything that you would do with the webinar. They just wouldn't be able to engage in the same way. Yes, Deb, I am really excited for webinar as well. Big reason being that there's limitations on how many live events that you can have at one time. It was 15 concurrent live events at one time. I think it went up to 50 or will go up to 50 at some point, right? But which is fine, and maybe we don't use that, but sometimes not knowing how many are concurrently going on is a bit nerve-wracking. So doing live meetings is kind of a way to get around that, or doing the large meetings is a way to get around that. Along with it, the third feature that fits in, or second feature that fits in very nicely with this webinar push that we're doing is the attendee registration. So again, we want to make this a seamless process. You go in and create a meeting like normal, but you have all of these other options to use. So one of those options being, do we want to require attendees to register for this event? Everything that you see here in this mock-up can be edited. If you want to add more fields to require or have less fields to require, you can do that. If you want to gauge the knowledge base of the attendees coming, or you want to know food preferences before they show up, then that's big. I care about food preferences because I was president of National Society of Black Engineers in undergrad, go NSBE, and it was important to know how many people were going to come to our meetings, because people only came to our meetings for free food. So higher ed customers, I think that's going to be huge. For K through 12, when you're, maybe you want to know how many people will show up if you're having a large meeting in person with parents and leadership from the school board, that would be huge. So I think this will be great whether we're in person or virtual. The improved attendance report is that third piece of the webinar. I don't know if you can really see this very well on your screen, but that first set of numbers on this mock-up kind of shows how many people looked at the registration, how many people actually clicked into it to see what this email is that you sent them. That next one shows how many attendees are actually chose to register it. After reading your insightful email, how many people chose to register for it. And then that third number is how many people actually attended the event. And so being able to collect this time after time, if you have regular webinars, gives you an idea of how many people will actually show up out of how many people are going to register for the event. And I will say, Jose, to clarify here, and thanks Richard for hopping in the chat, with that webinar feature, that picture is a little bit misleading. I've heard from the product group with the webinar. It sounds like right now, after further evaluation, it might not explicitly have the ability to select a webinar, but it will have, just like a normal Teams meeting, there are going to be webinar features that you will be able to enact while the meeting is going on. So as these things further develop, I think more and more mock-ups will come out of what exactly it will look like. So I will say TBD for now. But the thought is to have as smooth of an experience as possible, not have someone have to opt into things like a live event. All right, breakout rooms. So everybody was excited about breakout rooms coming out this year. We have heard the user voice of how breakout rooms could be better. And so that plan is to be rolled out again by the time we go back to school. So the big things that are coming out with breakout rooms that I'm excited about is the ability to pre-assign people to a particular breakout room. Maybe there's a semester-long group project that is going on, and so you want to automatically be able to say, hey, let's start the breakout rooms, and everyone automatically goes there. You can also still change those breakout rooms that are pre-assigned, and those assignments will stay with the meeting if it is a reoccurring meeting. So that also kind of saves some time for the teacher. Presenter mode. I love this again from the perspective of real estate when we're looking at the Teams meeting. This is great if, if you are within a school district or a higher ed institution that is really working with the deaf and hard of hearing community. If you have one person that's presenting, they're overlaid on your PowerPoint, and another person that is the ASL interpreter. This makes really good use of the space so that we can make sure that people that need to see the ASL interpreter can actually do so. PowerPoint Live and Microsoft Teams. I was hesitant to call what I'm doing right now to be PowerPoint Live because this feature is so much more robust than what I'm doing right now. So another thing, still going back to this theme of screen real estate. A lot of people have talked about, or teachers, if you're sharing your screen, you can't see the chat, you can't see how people are interacting with you all in one place. And so this is great for that. You can see your presentation, you can see your presentation notes, you can see the chat, all within one screen, even if you don't have the dual monitor. So I actually have the privilege of being able to use that right now. You all can't see my screen, but I am fully presenting to you on one screen right now. So I can promise you that this is very close to being rolled out. I'm looking at your chat right now and presenting all from one screen. Live transcripts with speaker. I always stumble over this word, so I'm not even going to try it. And so you might, I think that this is out now. I left that date there intentionally. So if you want to try it, feel free to try it. But I'm the only one speaking, so you'll only see my name and what I'm saying. But if both David and I were speaking at the same time, you would be able to see that distinction between who is speaking, just as you see in the mock-up there. So I think that is great. Viewing assignments within the O365 calendar, within your team's calendar. I know this was another ask from a lot of customers of ours. While we still don't have that parent portal, if a parent is looking at their student's calendar to see when their class times are, et cetera, their homework assignments can also show up there. Again, this probably goes without saying. This is more so used for if you are using assignments in Teams. If you are not using assignments in Teams, this probably won't necessarily apply unless a teacher sent out a calendar invite for a particular assignment that they're using. But for those of you that aren't using assignments in Teams, maybe this is, an incentive to start thinking about doing so as we continue rolling out new features. By invite only. So some of you might have heard of this, but whoever is invited to the meeting initially, so if I as the teacher send out a meeting invite to my whole class, then only those people will be able to bypass the meeting lobby. Okay, as for me wanting to help you all plan ahead, yes, that does mean that students would then be able to bypass the lobby. So in the K-12 space, maybe this is not a feature that you want to use depending on how your teachers decide to manage their classrooms. In the higher ed space, maybe this is exactly what you want. Maybe you don't want to sit there and have to admit every, student in, so this kind of is at the teacher's discretion, right? This is not a policy setting that is going to be done on the IT side. This is given to the teacher for them to decide how they want to govern their classroom. But I think it is a really cool feature, depending on how they decide to use it. Lock a meeting. There's more to come on what this will exactly look like. So I definitely encourage clicking on that link and bookmarking this particular roadmap feature. The lock a meeting feature, what it should do is, theoretically, I guess if all the students have shown up that you expect to show up, you can go ahead and lock that meeting. Circling back to the meeting ID and what that does for, Zoom bombing or Teams bombing. If all of your students are in the classroom, I probably would just go ahead and lock the meeting. If I'm not expecting the principal to drop in for any reason, et cetera, that just adds another level of security. That person that is locked out of the meeting, that probably shouldn't be in the meeting, will get a notice that says, hey, you've been locked out of this meeting and you can't join. So More to come on what that would look like for the teacher that's presenting, but I think this is a really promising feature. Okay, so disable meeting chat for all participants. And are you all still on the same slide with me? I think someone else might have started presenting.
We're at the lock meeting, so we're good.
Oh, okay. I went on to the next one, so I think all right. I think that someone else might have taken control over my PowerPoint on accident.
Wasn't me this time.
All right, I think I've taken back control. But this is great. I love experimenting. Whenever I'm in a meeting with my friends, I start to experiment as well on them, and they don't know what's going on. Uh-oh, that was Christopher. Shame on you. All right, so we're on slide 14 now. Disable meeting chat for all participants. Thumbs up if we're on the same slide.
Yes.
Awesome, thank you all. All right, so for disabling meeting chat for all participants, this has been out for a while, but this was a huge ask when we were going back to school in 2020. So I just want to restate it again, that this is available to turn off meeting chat forever, turn off meeting chat just when you're not in a meeting and only in the meeting, or turn off the meeting chat before the meeting. So I think this is a great feature. If you're not using it, check it out in your meeting options. The Reflect app for education insights. So I think, some version of the Reflect app is already available. You can kind of get a sense of how your students are feeling. I think the added benefit here is being able to actually track that over time. Students won't be able to see how other students are seeing with a name attached to it. You are able to show in general how the whole class is feeling. But as we think about what it looks like to teach and learn remotely, or even in that hybrid scenario, I think this is great. Some teachers don't require all students to have their camera on. So sometimes it's hard to get that sense of how a student is doing without having a formalized way to really check in with them. So I think this is great. Yes, that assumption about why you all are able to take over is correct. It's because everybody here is a presenter, so don't worry about this in a classroom setting. If all of the students are attendees, you should not be able to take over the PowerPoint. So, supervised chat. This is great. This is another big one. Each group of people can have a different chat permission role. So I will break this down because this gets a little confusing sometimes. So you will be able to be classified by one of three things. You can be a person that has restricted permissions. You can be a person that has limited permissions, or you can be a person that has full permissions. I will give you some personas for each one of those. A restricted permissions person will be a student. So that is someone, if two restricted permissions people will not be able to be in a chat together. It will only, because they're both students. So this prevents the student one-on-one student chat. A limited permissions person might be a staff member that you don't expect to ever need to interface with students, right? So maybe it's custodial staff, lunch duty staff, what have you. And you just want that added barrier, right? So that students don't message them and say weird things to them, right? So that's a limited permissions person. A full permissions person might be the teaching staff, principal, etc., who should and might need to discuss or talk with any and everybody in the school. Okay, so a restricted permissions person cannot talk to another restricted permissions person unless a full permissions person is present, which is why it is called supervised chat. So whenever students are chatting, it will always be supervised because a full permissions person must be there. Disable attendee video during meetings. This is big. We've had some interesting incidents where you just really wish you could turn off someone's video right now and save them some embarrassment and everybody else in the room, the awkwardness. And so that is going to be an ability. I think you will be able to disable attendee video as a whole or on a attendee by attendee basis if only one person is maybe misusing their video abilities. So that is all that I have. I am open for questions. I try to glance over at from time to time, but yeah.
So there was lots of stuff going on, right? Lots of questions. So that was great, Victoria. I always love, when we have you on and, you kind of live in this world. And, these days I'm going this wide and maybe about this deep, where I used to be, way in on security that's the only thing that I covered. So super helpful to see kind of how you're using it. I love the live meeting stuff, right? From a Teams meeting to a live meeting, I just think is huge, right? It's or a live event. Very few times in our day-to-day stuff do we really need more than 1,000 people. I mean, that's just the reality. And I think for some people that production value may not be quite as high, but we don't need the producer and all the stuff that goes along with that. About 2 weeks ago, we actually had our friend Satya, when I was speaking with him, Nadella, was speaking down at Cornell for an important event with their president, and all of a sudden it was like, we need to get trained on Teams live meeting. And, it was the advanced team for Satya. Now, I didn't really speak to Satya, Victoria, as you probably know. But he's like, if I can't come to office hours, I will speak with the president of, Cornell. Anyways, it was a great opportunity to really, just see some of the scale and the things that people are using. And then also the additional meeting controls, right? And the personas. I've actually started using them in some of our meetings that we have. Just some meetings have grown, right? Where we start off with, 3 or 4 people that you really want the interaction from, and then people kind of steal the rest of the meeting away, and you don't get to what the original 4 of you were there to speak about. So that's helpful. Which ones do you like the most?
For me, I think it's probably the supervised chat is huge. I think my favorites are like what my customers' concerns are. So between the supervised chat and all of the whole webinar stack, I think that's great. I've thought about maybe being a weather person only because I like the green screen effect. So yep. I think I like the presenter mode with having your video superimposed on your PowerPoint, just as a cool thing.
Have you done that yet?
I have. Meetings? So it's actually shown up in my tenant. So I do it, but I'm the only one that can see it. The other person can't see it unless they're in the same ring as me. But I do it for my own pleasure. So, who else needs this? I'm an only child, so I'm used to entertaining myself.
I've spent too much time alone the last 12 months, other than my kids and wives and dogs. And again, I'm not putting any of them in the same bucket. They're all valuable. But again, I've been a big enjoyer of noise canceling headsets. All right. Any questions? We'll take 1 or 2 questions. It looks like if we had one question from Ross. If a person leaves a locked meeting, can they come back in? I don't know the answer to that. Do you, Victoria?
Yeah, I would assume no. And so that might be an issue. And that's the part where I'm not sure what the presenter or the teacher will actually see. It's possible they will see, hey, someone's knocking at your gate and they want to be let in. And maybe that's up to the teacher to let them in. At that point, maybe it's similar to a lobby. So we're still trying to figure that out there. And I see Francisco raised his hand a while back.
Yes, going back to the lobby features, we've had some questions about, we try to have everybody use their tenant IDs to log into meetings, but messages get forwarded. And so sometimes there's an inordinate amount of lobby notifications because people that aren't invited start banging on the door, and it interrupts the meeting as they get waiting to get in. Is there a way to either silence or disable lobby notifications, or is that what locked meetings will take care of?
Yeah, and when you say silence, or I guess it depends on the scenario, do you not want any of those people to be able to be in the meeting, or do you wish that everyone could just come into the meeting and you not have to, let people in?
We would prefer that they not get into the meeting because we're trying to guide people to use their tenant IDs, not third-party identities.
Yeah, so I guess that the feature of automatically administering people in that you send the meeting invite to might help. Lock a meeting might also help with that. I just today asked the product group for more details on that. I think that has an opportunity to be really promising. And I have a feeling that they are testing out one of the scenarios that you just mentioned right now to see what that looks like. So,
yeah, and it's really like silence, at least be able to silence the lobby notifications. It's okay if they wait because you're supposed to be using the people who are here.
mhm.
You don't want to, we don't want to have knocks on the door constantly from folks who are trying to get in.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that should address it, but I'm not sure. But I'll definitely share that as one of the use cases for sure.
Awesome. All righty. So I actually have a hard stop, Victoria, at 5 o'clock. So we're going to end the recording here real quick. But thanks so much for the great updates. This was super helpful. And to the community, we'll have this pushed out, either this evening or early tomorrow morning. So, subscribe to MS Office Hours on YouTube, and you'll get those updates. Appreciate everybody's having a little bit of fun with us. And always, Victoria, always fun. And I look forward to getting the Viva folks back on here. And I hope everybody has a wonderful day. And special thanks to Deb and Steve for helping make today special and a little bit of fun at my expense again. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, Deb. Bye, Steve. Bye, everyone.